These are the 4 great Roman pastas: Cacio e Pepe, Gricia, Carbonara, and Amatriciana. And in this video, I'm not just going to teach you how to make them, but with each recipe, we are going to focus on a specific chef skill, starting off easy and getting more and more complex as we go along. And then, at the end of this video, after learning how to make all 4 recipes like an Italiano vero, we'll combine all 4 chef skills together in order to make the 5th pasta of Rome, which is the least well known, but honestly, I think it's the best of the bunch. But first, we have to start with the first Roman pasta, Cacio e Pepe, and a chef skill called la Mantecatura. Cacio e Pepe is the oldest and simplest recipe in this video. A great place to start. It's just cheese, or cacio. The CI is like a CH in Italian, so Cacio e Pepe, or pepper. Don't you just love it when the name is the recipe? But simple is not easy, because if you aren't careful, you'll end up with a stringy mess that's not really good to eat, but too expensive to throw away. That's why for this recipe, I want to focus on a chef skill that you'll use in all the recipes in this video, but also whether you're cooking Italian food, Chinese food, Southern food, or French food, you will use a version of this technique to make all your sauces just a little bit better. And that technique is what the Italians call la Mantecatura. La Mantecatura is a process of stirring vigorously in order to emulsify or distribute the fats and oils in a sauce evenly. This is what makes a risotto or a gravy creamy and glossy. Traditionally, this is done by tossing the pasta in a pan called a saltapasta, or a jumping pasta pan. But you can also get the same effect less theatrically by just stirring a lot. Now, when performing la Mantecatura for Cacio e Pepe in particular, there are 3 big mistakes that you need to avoid. First, you may think it's impressive to invite a date over for dinner. Cacio e Pepe is on the menu, you have practiced your Mantecatura with some cheap box pasta, but you really want this date to go well, so you're gonna make fresh homemade pasta to win their heart forever. Right? Wrong. For a dish like Cacio e Pepe, performing a proper Mantecatura with fresh pasta will just leave you with a mush of broken noodles. So unless your date just loves the texture of baby food, it's not the right move. You can use lots of different shapes for Cacio e Pepe, but you really want to make sure that you use dried pasta that can hold up to the intense tossing and stirring. The second mistake is either making the sauce too hot or too cold. When adding the pasta water to the cheese, you want the water to be hot enough to melt the cheese, or denature it, but not so hot that the cheese clumps together or coagulates. And for Pecorino Romano cheese, this is a really tight window. We're talking 15 to 20 degrees, depending on the age of your cheese. So hitting that narrow window on your first try can be pretty difficult. I would recommend going low and slow, because melting cheese is a one-way street. You can always add heat, but you can't go back once the cheese has clumped together. Also, there's no shame in actually taking the temperature of your water before adding it to the cheese. Your date will still be impressed. Maybe even more impressed if you use a cool laser thermometer and talk to them about the intricate thermodynamics of protein denaturing. At least, that's what gets me going. And the last mistake takes place even before you've started la Mantecatura, and that's using too much water to boil your pasta. Mixing cheese and water is basically like mixing oil and water, 2 things that are very famous for not mixing well together. So to make this mixture possible, you need something to stabilize it. And in the case of Cacio e Pepe, that stabilizer is the starch in the pasta water. As you cook pasta, starches release into the water, and that's why the water will look cloudy after you're done cooking. And when you add that starchy water to the oily cheese, the fat will stay mixed together or emulsified in the sauce rather than separating out. Oh, and you know that tiny temperature window we were talking about? Well, when you add starch to the equation, the cheese melts just like normal. But the starch blocks the melted cheese from clumping together and increases the top end of that temperature window, making it easier to heat up the sauce without clumping. And as a bonus, you can then serve your Cacio e Pepe at a higher temperature, so your final bite isn't just a mass of cold, cheesy noodles. Ethan Chlebowski has a 16-minute deep dive into this topic that I would highly recommend. link in the description. But the big takeaway is just to remember that the starchier the pasta water, the better it will stabilize and creamify the sauce. But as for you in a home kitchen, as long as you remember to use dried pasta, monitor your temperature, and use the proper amount of water, you can successfully perform la Mantecatura, making cacio e pepe both simple and easy. And if you can make cacio e pepe like an Italiano vero, the next pasta is a walk in the park. Pasta alla Gricia. But first, I want to talk to you about the sponsor of this video, Amatriciana Coffee. Coffee culture can be intimidating, but Amatriciana makes becoming a coffee connoisseur easy. They source their beans from tons of different award-winning roasters like Intelligentsia, Counterculture, and Proud Mary. Then the coffee is precision brewed to 10 times the strength with 2 times the caffeine of a regular cup. Then it's flash frozen into little aluminum capsules that lock in the freshness and flavor at their peak for up to 3 years. Why you would take 3 years to enjoy this, I don't know, but you could. For a hot coffee, you just eject the puck with this little button and melt it with 8 ounces of hot water. For an iced coffee, just thaw a capsule and add it over ice water. Then you can add milk for a latte or any other mix-ins that you enjoy. Hot or iced, strong or weak, black or white, it's all up to you. Personally, as someone who does not know the first thing about brewing coffee, selecting roasts, or grinding beans, I like how easy Amatriciana makes it to enjoy different roasts in different styles. And they're all precision brewed so that the flavor is always smooth and balanced without any bitterness. I also like that the capsules are fully recyclable and TSA approved for quality coffee on airplanes. If you want to try Amatriciana, you can get $30 off your first order by visiting amatriciana.com/trigtube, scanning this QR code, or clicking the link in the description. Now, I'm going to finish this and get back to pasta alla Gricia. The big difference, well, the only difference between cacio e pepe and Gricia is one ingredient, and that's guanciale. For cacio e pepe, I wanted to focus on la Mantecatura because you use it in almost every pasta recipe. Pesto, scampi, alfredo, bolognese, etc. Similarly, guanciale is going to be used in all the other recipes in this video, including the bonus recipe at the end. But it can be hard to find, so that's why the next chef skill is substitutions. Guanciale is pork cheek or jowl. I like to say cheek because I'm cheeky like that, but also jowl just makes me feel like we're like fat shaming pigs, so I'm not into that. Traditionally, guanciale is cured in a mixture of salt, pepper, and other spices. And some people leave that on, but I prefer to cut it off because it can be a bit dry and leathery. You can also find guanciale that's been cured and smoked. That's known as guanciale affumicato. I would recommend trying them both and seeing what you like the most. Outside of Italy, you can find guanciale at some Italian delis or markets, so support your local Italian deli or check out some of the links that I put in the description. It's right below the button that looks like this, if you're cool. Now, for this recipe, we're going to talk about substituting for guanciale, but for any recipe you're cooking, the key to substituting is understanding the roles that that ingredient plays in the dish. For guanciale, in addition to the porky, salty, and sometimes smoky flavor, the fat will help enhance or amplify the flavors of the pepper and cheese that are already in the sauce. And in addition to flavor, it also adds a slightly crispy and crunchy texture to each bite. So if you're sticking to pork as the main flavor, using a fatty cut of pork belly like pancetta or bacon will match the flavor, function, and texture pretty well. Pancetta is going to be pork belly that's cured in a similar way to guanciale, and bacon is going to be more similar to guanciale affumicato that's been cured and smoked. But if you use a leaner cut like prosciutto or ham, then you need to add a fat or oil to make up for the leanness of the meat. And an example of a bad substitution would be turkey or vegan bacon, which are good substitutes for bacon in some cases, but for Gricia in particular, where the fat and grease serve a functional purpose, these cuts are too lean and thin to match the flavor, texture, and function of guanciale. So if you can't eat pork or you're a vegetarian, then think about something like mushrooms, which have an umami flavor that's similar to cured meats, and they soak up lots of flavorful oil while you cook with them. And they're also crispy on the outside and soft and tender on the inside. So next time you can't find an ingredient or have a dietary restriction, consider the function in the dish and substitute according to what you like. But whatever you're working with, the recipe for Gricia starts just like cacio e pepe, by toasting the ground black pepper. Then you fry up the guanciale slices and heat them on low to render the fat and leave them just a bit crispy on the outside. You can do this while your pasta cooks. It doesn't take really long. I'm using the pasta shape Peccari here because it's an awesome shape that I want more people to know about, and it captures the guanciale chunks really nicely in this dish. Once the meat is done to your liking, pull some out to keep them crispy, and dump in the pasta with a splash of starchy water to drop the pan and oil into the safe cacio e pepe temperature window. Then mantecare with your Pecorino Romano cheese sauce, just like you did with the cacio e pepe. See, we're only 2 recipes in and you can already see the chef skills start building upon one another. Ed è così che si prepara la pasta alla gricia come un italiano vero. And with just one extra ingredient, you get the arguably most overrated Italian dish of all time, carbonara. I said arguably most overrated. Personally, I love carbonara. I just think there are more pasta dishes, even a couple in this video, that deserve to be higher in the global rankings. Feel free to argue about it in the comments. They're somewhere below this button. Anyway, one of the reasons that carbonara gets so much attention on the internet is because of how often people mess it up. So that's why we are going to focus on the chef skill of temperature control while we make our carbonara. At this point, you know you're gonna use the other chef skills in this recipe. So get ready to mantecare with your familiar ingredients. But this new ingredient adds some additional challenges that we do need to talk about. You remember how cheese had that tight temperature window between melting and coagulating? Well, eggs have an even tighter temperature window between being raw and yucky and overcooked and dry. But unlike the cheese, the starch won't help you out by expanding that window. So that's why you need to master the chef skill of temperature control. And this is how. Cook the pepper and guanciale just like before, but mix your cheese and eggs, mostly yolks, in a separate bowl. Now, the most difficult thing about teaching someone temperature control through a camera is my medium-low might be your high, depending on the quality of your pan, the size of your stovetop, or whether your stovetop is gas or electric. All of these will affect the actual cooking temperature. But chances are, wherever you are on Earth, your water boils within 5 to 10 degrees of my water. That is to say, around 212F or 100C. And so whatever stove, pan, or heat source you use, water allows everyone on Earth to cook at precisely the same temperature using the technique of a double boiler, which uses steam to heat your bowl at a relatively low temp and gradually increase the temperature of the sauce until the consistency is perfect. As the eggs pasteurize from raw to cooked, they will also thicken. So continue to stir, or mantecare, as you add any additional pasta water that you need to thin out the sauce. Obviously, this chef technique also works with gricia and cacio e pepe, so feel free to use this technique for those dishes if you need that extra little help with temperature control. And once you're happy with your sauce, garnish with the crispy guanciale, and just like an Italiano vero, enjoy your arguably underrated carbonara. Okay, now I need to confess something. These are actually not the 4 great Roman pastas. It's a great title for a video, but technically these 4 dishes are just from the region of Lazio, of which Rome is the international facing capital. 2 of these dishes, Gricia and our next dish, Amatriciana, are from the cities of Griciano and Amatrice, around 3 hours outside of Rome. So that just needs to be said out of respect for Amatrice and out of respect for Amatriciana, which is personally my favorite recipe of these 4, and I think one of the best weeknight meals that you can prepare in under 15 minutes. That is, if you've mastered the chef skill of timing. There are a few different steps in every recipe. There's prepping, cooking, mixing, plating, eating, and everyone's least favorite, cleaning. Now, depending on the order and execution of these steps, a 15-minute recipe for one chef may take 30 to 45 minutes for someone without the experience. So, though it may take you longer, let's practice with the goal of a perfectly executed 15-minute Amatriciana. What I like to do is look at all the steps of a recipe and make a plan before even turning on the stove. For Amatriciana, in no particular order, these are all the steps that go into the full recipe, including eating and cleaning. Now, I don't physically do this when I'm cooking, except on Thanksgiving. Then I actually do this. But this is just a visual for educational purposes. You get the idea. For some of these prep tasks, like chopping onions, the timing depends on how good of a cook you may be. while others, like cooking pasta or cooking tomatoes, have fixed lengths of time regardless of your skill level. In addition, some tasks, like boiling water and cooking pasta, are part of a sequence that goes in a specific order. So, looking at all of your sequences, choose the longest one and build your plan around that. For this dish, our longest sequence is going to be the 15 minutes it takes to boil the water and cook the pasta. Now, the good news is boiling water and cooking pasta is pretty passive. Except for this 20-second section where you're adding the pasta and stirring it around, you can be doing other things. So move on to your next longest sequence, which is slicing and cooking the guanciale. Then, as the guanciale cooks, we can prep the next step, and so on and so forth. Now for me, I can dice onions pretty quickly, so that gives me extra time to grate the cheese or start cleaning up the knife, cutting board, or cheese grater that I'm fully done using. But if you dice onions more slowly, then you may not be done in time to add them to the guanciale, and the guanciale will burn before you have time to add the onions, and you'll just be chopping in a rush, and you might cut yourself, and time out. I know this can look like a lot. If you're slower at cutting up vegetables, then you may just need to space out these steps or prep all of the ingredients beforehand, so you're not scrambling around the kitchen, just not enjoying the whole experience, and then ordering takeout the next day because of just the PTSD from those stressful 15 minutes. Personally, if I'm making this dish during the week, I will use frozen onions and frozen guanciale that I've already cut up, so it's as simple as just tossing everything into the pan. It's kind of my version of meal prep, except it's more ingredient prep. It's okay if you take 20 to 25 minutes to make a 15-minute recipe. It's still gonna taste really good. Find a system that is achievable and repeatable for you so that you actually keep practicing to achieve that 15-minute target. Now, back to the recipe. When the onions are ready, add the black pepper, red pepper flakes, and tomato puree to the saucepan. It takes about 3 minutes for the sauce to thicken up, so in an ideal situation, you want to time the sauce finishing with the pasta boiling so that everything finishes at the same time. And as soon as the pasta is done cooking, you can just toss it in with the cheese, Mantecatura for a final 20 seconds, garnish, and serve. And when you're done eating your Amatriciana, like an Italiano vero, if you've been cleaning up along the way, the only dirty dishes you'll have left are your pot and your plate. Speaking of cleaning things up, let's get to the 5th chef skill and the final pasta of Rome, or Lazio. You've mastered your Mantecatura, inspected your ingredients, and tightened up your temperature control and your timing. It's time to take all these skills, put them together like a giant Italian Megatron, and add one more skill to make my favorite Roman pasta, Zozzona. Zozzona comes from the Roman dialect meaning dirty, sloppy, naughty, just a big old mess. And that's kind of what this dish is. It brings together the ingredients from our 4 other pastas and adds in some sausage too, because sausage is delicious. And listen, if you have some garlic, peas, or cream that you want to throw into any of these dishes, you can do that. Because the 5th and final chef skill is exactly that. Use what you got and use what you like. I'm sure there are people out there who don't agree with the fact that I put onions in my Amatriciana. And that's fine. You're cooking for your budget and your belly. As for me, when I'm making Zozzona, I start by crisping up the guanciale, then I cook the sausage and onions before throwing in some black pepper, red pepper flakes, and tomato puree. Just like Amatriciana, this dish is best when it's a little spicy. And just like carbonara, I would recommend mixing the eggs and cheese separately and then finishing the Mantecatura in a double boiler for that perfect smooth and creamy consistency. And if all 5 of your chef skills are on point, then your pantry should be empty, your tummy should be full, and you should be confident in your ability to improvise any weekday sauce, just like an Italiano vero.